Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and this episode is very important because we will discuss on augmented reality. Augmented reality right now is very important. Even we can utilize in education, in healthcare, in construction, and many industries. We have our world famous scholars, Professor Edward. We have our new friends, Mr. Uh, Raushams, Rawals, as well as we have our Professor David Smith, Professor Donalds, and our honorable speaker, Mr. Dan. I want to start from Professor Edwards. How
Mhm,
do you want to analyze this augmented reality, how
mhm,
it will work,
mhm,
how it will be
mhm,
helpful for our innovative
mhm.
industries?
Yes. Well, first, I'll make the distinction between augmented reality and virtual reality. Virtual reality is basically you put on, for example, a headset like the one I have right here, and basically you're in a completely immersed world where you're, everything as it were is artificial. You can see, you can be sort of in a game and playing a game, or you can walk through a great cathedral or an art gallery or a beautiful forest. But of course, it's all virtual. None of it is real. You're really in your living room or wherever you're doing it. That's virtual reality. Augmented reality is a little bit different. It's where you insert into the live real world that you are in objects, visuals, and the like. And that's the difference. Now, obviously, virtual reality is something that is catching, or sorry, augmented reality is something that's catching on for various um, reasons. Entertainment, of course, is one. There's a kids game where you put on the glasses and you see a little figure sort of running down your driveway or running down the street, this sort of thing. So obviously entertainment is an area where it's already being employed. You have to have some kind of a visual system, though, to see it. But it's also very important in industry, business, research, and the like. If you're an architect and you're out on a site building a building, you can be seeing the building there, and then you can have exactly the design in front of you. And in fact, you could even have somebody remote who's in your office back there looking at it as well, and maybe drawing and saying, see over here, this part of the building, and they make a line, and you're seeing a line going on the real building. And they say, see that? We need to change this part right here. So you can have several people interacting on the virtual reality. Obviously, for training, it's an area that's being augmented reality. I would say augmented reality is being used. You can train in skills, hand skills, and so forth, because you have an object before you and you have some kind of interactive way of dealing with it. Obviously, modeling is another thing you can use for augmented reality, where if you wanted to say, well, how would this prototype work? Where will it fit? Will it fit in here? I know airlines can use that sometimes, designing the interiors of their planes. It can be used in other commercial activities. For example, if you want to buy furniture, you can be looking at your living room. You can have some augmented reality visual there, and you can say, what would a sofa look like right over there? And you can put it there, and you're looking at it. Well, I don't like that color. What about the different color? Yeah. Oh, this looks too big. Let's see if I get a smaller size. This would work, because you're in your real living room or your kitchen, and you're putting the object there. And so it's that interactivity. I want to stress two things that I always talk about on these wonderful shows. The first thing is that augmented reality, like virtual reality and like everything else, is a tool. And so I know a lot of people, when you get one of these new toys like this one, you want to play with it and have a lot of fun with it. And so I say to businesses and researchers and all, it's a tool. Have fun with it, yes, but understand that that's what it is. So don't basically say, well, everything, it's like if you have a hammer, you decide everything is a nail. Everything might not be a nail. You might need a saw. So it's a tool. And number two, the point I always make is it's going to take entrepreneurs to figure out the different ways of using augmented reality. They've already done a great job in doing that, but it's going to be entrepreneurs who are sitting around, people listening to this show right now, thinking about, how can I take this tool and offer value with it, and make something that people will pay me for, that will maybe help with research or whatever it is. So it's a tool, and we need entrepreneurs to figure out the best ways to use it. Experiment, do the empirical approach.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor David Smith, how you want to analyze today's topic, and especially we love to learn from you what kind of industry actually can use these augmented realities, and what type of solution industry has.
Sharif, thank you. Augmented reality is, as Edward said, a really pretty dynamic marketplace. The market size in 2020 was right at $18 billion and growing at a rate of about 43% compound annual growth rate, which makes it really a very interesting market. Some of the drivers you've talked about are really interesting. One of the biggest growth areas recently has been using in remote assist and collaboration from enterprises, large companies, to really help assist them as they are working across optimization, workflow management, and others. But one of the real drivers for it is the smartphones and smart glasses as they're being deployed and used. The markets where they're going into is actually one of the more interesting ones, because it's going into markets that you would immediately think of, like in manufacturing. But one of the other markets that's posed for growth is in healthcare. Augmented reality can be a game changer in the healthcare market. The GIS navigation market's another one. But one of the places where a form of augmented reality has been used for years and years is in sports. You know, we've all seen the people on television draw lines on the field and illustrate plays and other things like that. We've seen it being used in the military, particularly in places at the tip of the spear for battle. We're beginning to see it being used in hospitality. At Pompeii in Italy, they have AR units around that can project views of the ancient civilization over time around those ruins and other things like that. A lot of dynamic usage of AR. One of the places where I've seen some very dynamic examples lately is it being used in education. And I can, just using a smartphone with me and another phone with a background, put myself as an avatar on top of anywhere I want to teach and train from, and actually walk through the lesson with students, walk through the Coliseum, other elements like that, walk through Congress with them. So the applications are numerous, and it's just the imagination to do it. Most of them are using smartphones or smart glasses, and with the chip shortage we're having now, that's going to cause costs to go up some and stretch out some implementation. But I believe the market is good for this one.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. Professor Donalds, after a long time, you joined World Talent Economy Forum. How are you? And how you want to discuss these augmented realities? Any new thoughts? Can you unmute, please?
Well, I think everybody's basically explained what it is. There's a continuum between virtual reality and augmented reality. I'd rather put them in, rather than put them in two separate piles. I kind of like to think of them as a line, and you can get all the way one or all the way the other, but they have elements of each other. And so I'll just mention a couple of applications that I know about that are pretty cool. Is they have an AR program that what you do is you go into a construction site, and if you take the sheetrock off a house, you can see where all of the electrical wires go and plumbing, and then you put the sheetrock back and you can't see it. And so what they've done now is they've created AR that allows you to, after you put the sheetrock on, you put on the glasses, and you can see the pipes and wires behind the wall, so that as you're doing things like additions where you have to cut through the wall, you can see them there magically. I think that's pretty cool. I know a company that's doing that. And they use more on the VR end, but it's got an AR aspect to it because people are in it. They use it for systematic desensitization in psychology. So people who have PTSD from some event, what can happen is the way our brain works is that every time we remember something, we remember it differently. So we attach the emotional valence of the time that we remembered something. So if you have some sort of a traumatic event and you remember that traumatic event and you feel just terrible when you're remembering the traumatic event, every time you remember it, you attach that terrible feeling to it. But if you can change that so that you attach a better feeling, a more distant feeling where you're not in it necessarily, you're watching it, and like it becomes like a movie where you don't necessarily have to have the same emotional attachment to it. You can basically separate yourself from the traumatic event and feel better. So I know some people that are using it at the VA hospital in Palo Alto, where they're using augmented reality to be able to systematically desensitize people from traumatic events to be able to help work on their PTSD. So I'm just mentioning a couple of uses. I will say one thing is that it requires a huge amount of data transfer. And so we're still kind of in a primitive area of it. It's the kinds of things that you can make in augmented reality are still fairly limited. And one of the things that's for as far as growing companies and creating companies is making ways that you can create augmented reality more easily. It's still quite a chore to create these things. And there are companies, there's quite a few startups now who are making ways to actually create the augmented and virtual reality more easily and allow more flexibility. So that's what I'll say now.
Thank you. Mr. Dan, how are you today? What do you want to add for today's discussion?
Yeah, very good discussion. I would just add a couple terminology elements. You can think of actuality on one hand, which is the world we experience now, and then virtuality all the way at the other end. And then in between, you have this spectrum of you can go partway between virtual and actual, and then also you can augment in different ways. It's not always sight and sound either. Pilots have been using something called a stick shaker on their aircraft for a long time, which alerts them when their plane is getting toward a stall, the stick will start to shake. And this could be thought as an augmented reality thing. So it's not just sight and sound. You know, there's when they go into a simulator, they feel the plane moving around on hydraulic pistons that simulates the motions of the plane. So and then even people are doing virtual reality in immersive water environments where you can simulate low gravity. So that's something to include. And like Edward said, you guys listening are probably the creative entrepreneurs that are going to come up with all these unimagined ways to paint with these new tools. You know, we humans are expanding our paintbrushes and our hammers and saws in ways that are really magical and digital right now. But along with that, this is yet another augmentation of what's thought of as the digital divide. There's a gulf between people who have connectivity to the internet and to computers and those that don't. And I would propose that those that do have access to these amazing technologies, they have sort of a mentorship responsibility or role to play with those that don't. You know, a lot of the people that are in good circumstances, got there through no, just by being lucky. They were born from a privileged mother, and they didn't necessarily create all the great circumstances they have. So think about giving back to those who maybe didn't land in such a fortunate circumstance. And I'll wrap up my comments there. And thanks again for the chance
Thank
to
you. Thank you.
pine.
Thank you, Mr. Dan. Mr. Shankar, how are you today? What you want to add for today's discussion? Unmute, please.
It's fantastic and very fascinating area, the augmented reality, and what it can do for bringing the gap that is real. You can't always do everything all the time in the space of reality, so to speak. And we need to test things, and we need to do things which are just about to come, but without actually the real aspect. There's a lot of loss in military, in the defense, in various companies which utilize these augmented reality just to test, which might cost millions otherwise. But you can save a lot and still get the kind of data that you require to tweak a bit, take the machinery to the next level, and all of that. So I'm seeing that there is immense possibility when you have augmented reality in any of the fields. For example, let us say you're building a city and you have this augmented reality design center where you can look at things from various angles and various formats, and you have this entire thing coming up, and you can see it from around the world and decide what you want to do and calculate. And so that's one aspect of augmented reality. And there are design centers coming just for this around the world, to be able to put things in order and study it from various angles and perspectives, testing it. So one of the things, I have brought a friend of mine, Roshan, and he's basically working on certain projects connected with augmented reality. And I was fascinated by his technology, which can shed real light because it's all about how to compress time, efficiency, understanding, and utilize it to maximize the results one is seeking. So I will introduce Roshan from the Adani Group Innovation, which is going worldwide. So I wanted him to be part of this discussion so that he will bring in some of the key aspects of where it is and what technology readiness level he's in and where it is going. So thank you very much, Roshan, for coming on board today, and would welcome you. Professor Sharif is the one who runs and heads the entire global chain with eminent professors from Ivy League and Nobel Prize winners and people of great accomplishments watching it as you speak. So please go ahead with Professor Sharif's permission. I'm just introducing.
Thank you, Mr. Roshan. Really, we are interested to learn from your side, and especially what the new innovations you are introducing for global communities. We cannot hear you clearly.
It's on mute, or?
No, he's not. He's not mute.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Yeah, so thank you so much for the opportunities. I was listening to all the professors and all they talked on truly very amazing applications of all this augmented reality. So being an entrepreneur and running a startup company here in India, we are working with various industries where we are providing these solutions of augmented reality to add a real value into their existing solutions. So I think we all agree, the augmented reality application, it starts from constructions or from real estate to automobile to furniture or to educations or healthcare, and we all discussed very amazingly over here only. So I would like to also add few of the projects which we are doing very rapidly with the industries and the adoption adaptability which increased last 2 years. So as we all know, the reachability of the augmented reality to the mass, to the common people, that done by the social media filters, right? So if there's a common man, of if there's someone who wanted to relate how they are using augmented reality in their daily life, then the first one, either they might using Instagrams or they might using the Snapchat. So all those filters which they are using, those all are the augmented reality, right? So I believe the filters are the first one which engage the audiences to connect with the augmented reality. Then there are a lot of solutions which companies are trying out to increase the engagement. So one of the similar use cases was OnePlus. The OnePlus smartphone making company, they launched their own mobile phone with the help of augmented reality. So
Mhm.
till now, so they launched their phone in COVID situation, right? So till now what happens, either we all do some events for launching any product or something like that. So now time they just delivered one marker to all their customers, and now the customer can feel the entire product at their own home with the help of augmented reality. Apart from that, what we are majorly working with the industries here in India and outside India, like Dubai, Nigeria, Netherlands. So companies and industries are using augmented reality for prototyping. So let's say you having some plan in your mind, right? And we all, as a human being, we all think in a 3D. So whatever we are going to think, we have to imagine in 3D, right? So if you're having any product idea, or if you're having something in your mind, you wanted to test it out. So in a heavy machinery based companies or manufacturing based companies, it's very expensive to even having some prototyping, right? So prototyping companies are using a lot augmented reality to prototyping any new products or new machineries or anything. And apart from that, as we all discussed, remote assistance is something which is adding a great value. So for an example, especially in the automobile sectors or machinery based companies, so let's say I'm a manufacturer from India, and I installed one my machines into Singapore, correct? And if there's some problems which are very minor, but I can't control that machines. But with the help of augmented reality, the person who is into the Singapore, without having any external devices, from my smartphone only, I I start my application, my camera ons, and I can see what exactly from India, and I can take it out. I can make all the signals over there, and I can guide it in a more immersive way. So that is the the value additions of augmented reality. And apart from the last things which I would like to add, that is training. So let's say there's a big plants, right? So as we are working with lots of oil companies and port companies, so they're having a big plants. At the same time, they can't shut and give the training to their employees and training every time. So they use augmented reality as a technology to train their people several times in a year. So that is how I believe we are delivering such solutions, and we are able to see the impact of this augmented reality in industries, and which is tremendously well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. This is really, really great discussion. Especially, we can understand what's going on inside the industries. Professor Edwards, we are discussing on some of the applications of augmented reality and virtual realities. Beside that, you are working with many tech companies. If you give us some good examples, like how actually different corporation inside like USA, they are maintaining this augmented reality and virtual reality, as well as how it can be helpful for the youth community, especially.
Can can you hear me?
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I kept getting knocked off. Okay, I hope I'm back now so I can hear you. You were saying, sorry.
Yeah, yes, Professor Edward.
Mhm.
We just want to know that some applications in USA, like augmented reality and virtual realities, how actually Roshan gives some examples, let's say India and Singapore's. So if you share some of your views and experience from USA.
Yeah, well, one of the things that's already been discussed that I think is very important is the application of augmented reality to medical research and to medical diagnostics, because that's an area. Healthcare is, of course, COVID has raised our consciousness about the importance of healthcare, about the importance of health, but it's also opened up our minds to the fact that we can do a lot better, not just in terms of fighting future pandemics or this pandemic for that matter, but in creating a system, a real healthcare system as opposed to a sick care system. Right now, we have a sick care system in the United States and in most countries. You get sick, and then we talk about who should pay the bill. That's not a very good system. And of course, emerging economies in emerging countries, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, the Philippines is another one, and so forth. The problems are even more serious. A combination of technologies is going to allow not only the people in the developed world, but also, even more important, to people in the emerging economies to hopefully move faster than we've done here in the developed world. And augmented reality is one of the tools that can be used for diagnostics. And it's in terms of, for example, remote diagnostics is very important. So if somebody is in a village that has, hopefully they have Wi-Fi, but if they have some form of communicating with a hospital or a research facility, perhaps with a camera and so forth, the doctor can look, the doctor can sort of examine, and the doctor can make suggestions in a live interactive sort of way. One of the things, by the way, that we can do with augmented reality is to have essentially a hologram sitting there talking to you, not just in a virtual reality situation, but augmented reality. That's one of the things I suspect you're going to see is an element in the United States and hopefully in other countries of sort of the emerging healthcare system as opposed to the sick care system. I got a new book yesterday. Here it is. I'll promote this book that just came out, The Science and Technology of Growing Young by Sergey Young. This book just came out. He's done a lot of very good research. Oh, okay. I think I'm basically into dealing with the problem of aging. Because when we talk about aging, we're talking about a number of things. We talk about Alzheimer's, we talk about the susceptibility to cancer, certain diseases, and so forth. And to be able to head off those sorts of ailments through a complex of technologies, interactive technologies, diagnostics, artificial intelligence, genetic sequencing, and so forth, is what's going to be coming in the future. And so, I've said that augmented reality, just like all the other tools we're talking about, are tools. And I see, and one of the things I'm exploring right now is how you can use that particular tool as well as other tools in creating an emerging healthcare system where in the future, perhaps people who are listening to us right now in India or Pakistan or what have you, will in fact live to 150 years old, which is and in health, which is what this scientist has been working on. So, I mean, that's the thing that excites me most is in the healthcare area, using augmented reality remotely as well as in other ways.
Thank you. Professor David Smith, especially in Asia Pacific, there are many construction happening, especially for Belt and Road Initiative and these things, many projects, even in Malaysia, many projects developing. So you discuss about construction industry can utilize this augmented reality and virtual realities. If you share some concept and share some good corporations who are the best for these construction industries.
Well, it can be used across all parts of the construction industry. Augmented reality has been used for a while in the commercial construction space. One of the early uses was actually in designing bridges and designing tunnels, where you could begin to use augmented reality to help you not only picture in place, but understand the connections. There's a story of a old building I was involved with at the University of Texas, where it was butting up against two other buildings, and they constructed it. Then when they took down the construction walls to have the three buildings perfectly line up, they were a foot off in each direction. So places like that in augmented reality would really have helped in the construction process to be able to see through the walls. Same thing as you do bridge work in others. Augmented reality has really taken off in the space of beginning to do the interior design, to be able to use augmented reality to see what cubicles would look like, to see where pieces of machinery will fit, so that during the construction process, it helps you align the pneumatic lines, the power, the chemical lines, particularly the acid and other lines, and some of the manufacturing buildings going in, like for semiconductors and others like that. And particularly in hospital too. You think at the number of things which are hidden behind walls in hospitals, great use there. One of the other places, though, in the construction industry where we're beginning to see it come into play is early in the design process. It's being used as a visualization tool to help bring all the stakeholders to bear, and even helping in regulatory approvals. I've seen many, many instances where the regulatory people went into an AR enhanced environment, and it sped up the permitting process that let the construction go faster. So many different applications there. And you can see those same applications go over in manufacturing. You can see the same applications moving across the board in retail, in training, and other places like that. So it really is a great set of base tools that can be used as your imagination lets them be used in these other industries.
Thank you, Professor. I just want to share some good news with our audience and especially our board of advisors, because World Talent Economy Forum, as we are growing very fast, already we start our working with different governments and universities. So we need actually very good interns, and we need some good people, those who can work with our core team. So from Saudi Arabia, Prince Mohammed bin Fahad universities and Kashim University computer science departments, they actually providing us necessary like students, those who work with our core teams, and they will arrange the open dialogues and the conference and academy. So even from India and other countries, if you have a youth community, those who want to work with our core teams, we have a lot of excitement, lot of interesting projects, they can join. So thank you, this Prince Mohammed bin Fahad University. I just get this email and confirmations, and Kashim University, both of the like students actually from computer science departments. So students, especially those who want to do internship with World Talent Economy Forum, we have our academy, we have our university projects in Malaysia and Paris. So they can join, they can work, because we are growing very fast and we have very, very interesting projects. Maybe it will be very helpful for youth community, and we have our excellent board of advisor and mentors. I'm sure they can support the global communities. So thank you for all of your support. Professor Donald, so yes, from the beginning, you also supporting World Talent Economy Forums, and you have many interesting thoughts and views on youth developments, and you have a good curriculums and plan. So what we can do with these augmented realities, and how we can develop some like skilled people, like we find that Roshan actually from industry. So this kind of engineers and the skilled people, how we can develop.
Well, first off, I want to, oops, nope, I'm not muted. Yay. First off, I want to support what others have said and point out that augmented reality has been around for quite a while. When I was learning to drive forever ago, they had driving simulators, and I'm sure they still do, which is augmented reality. You're basically sitting in the car and driving. And the thing about construction, looking at construction, they're doing the same thing now with tumors, and so the surgeon can actually like kind of see what's inside while they're doing operations and things like that. So those are other things that are kind of interesting. And I want to mention one other thing before I answer your question, which is that there's a book called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And in Brave New World, they had this thing called feelies. And what they were movies that you watched, but because of the electrodes that were in the chair that you were sitting in, you actually experienced what was going on. I see this as I can think of a use for that would probably cause virtual reality to really take off, but I'm going to pass over that right now. They do now have hands. They're gloves that are with lots of sensors in them, and they're kind of expensive and difficult to use. But they're starting to use lasers and light to be able to do the same thing, so they can actually see your hand motion. So you can see things while see your hand and hand's motion while you're in augmented reality, which is kind of cool. But one of my things is training and basically human communication. So basically watching a talking head on a video and trying to learn something from them is so boring that when I was working at NetApp, to save money, they would make the technical courses be somebody just talking and explaining it to you. And this is why when I went into NetApp, they said, okay, this is what you need to do to learn these things so that you can teach them. And so all of us trainers had to watch these movies so that we could understand the technology of the company. And one day we were all sitting around talking, and we agreed that about 5 minutes was the longest we could concentrate on those. They're so incredibly boring. And so you have to watch them for 5 minutes and then take a break for a while and then watch them for 5 more minutes, and they're just horrible. And so augmented reality gives you a chance to start making it so that it's closer to actually having a professor in the room. And good teachers are looking at every student in that room, and they're watching their faces. They can see, well, they don't understand. They just didn't understand what I just said. I'm going to say this in a different way. And you can just tell what's going on there. And you can also notice that one student is particularly having difficulty and things like that. So augmented reality and training is starting to provide a way that you can do remote training in ways that's interesting enough to actually be valuable. And that's my answer to that question right now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Dan, do you have any political campaign? Do you have any political campaign with virtual reality?
Yeah, I can talk about the political candidate aspects of this technology, but Donald just gave me an insight that I'm an amateur radio person, and I bet the first example of remote augmented reality tactile training was probably a clattering telegraph key that someone maybe rested their finger on and said, "Oh yeah, I can see how they do that." And actually, they say you can tell who's sending by the quality of their fist, as they pound the brass there over, the ham radio airwaves or wire waves. But I also think that one obvious way that someone, David mentioned about speeding up the municipal permitting process using augmented reality. I mean, how many in-person inspections could be saved by just listening to the inspector say, okay, show me that part of the installation, okay, that looks good. That could save potentially millions of dollars and speed up permits, which, are often unnecessarily lengthy and expensive. But yeah, this is the great thing about being affiliated with the U.S. Transhumanist Party is you have all these greatest minds with the that have their finger on the pulse of the cutting edge of technology, the state of the art. So I also wanted to say that training is going to be huge. Even before people have access to this technology, they can go online and take advantage of the huge courseware that's out there for learning programs like Solidity and other languages that especially are optimized for creating these virtual worlds, these virtual experiences. So don't fret just because you can't afford the hardware yet. You can still get the training in many cases. And then lastly, I think NASA invented digital twin simulations where you test something out in a virtual environment before you potentially kill people and break things in the real world. And that's going to be a huge life and blood, sweat, and tear saver by having more of these digital twin simulations available to society and to people. So yeah, those would be my my comments. And thanks for the great political campaign planks.
Okay, thank you, Roshan. Like, how you are from the industry? Like if World Talent Economy Forums they want to utilize VR and AR, how it will be possible? How you can help us? Can you unmute, please? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So, in terms of application in very industries, see, let's say if we wanted to use for the video conferencing, or if we wanted to meet and greet, so what as Mr. Donald rightly mentioned, when we are on the video conferencing it becomes very boring, right? So augmented reality and virtual reality, this both technology comes in, and then again there's another terminology which we call mixed reality, right? When we all wear those heads with just glasses, and we all can be at the same place, and we can interact, we can have a more engaging meetings without being there. So that is one of the most engaging, or one of the most trending application we can say in terms of augmented reality, where we are mixing both these virtual reality immersions and augmented reality applications to present ourselves without traveling somewhere. So we all wanted to meet at some Maldives beach, and then we wanted to do some meetings, right, without traveling to there. So with this help of augmented reality, I believe the technology is changing very rapidly, and next 2 to 3 years, or even though the research and innovations in the industries on which we are working as of now, in next couple of months or next couple of years, we all will be meeting in that way only. So that is going to be there. So I believe in terms of this forum, that is how we can help out to meet all the bunch of people at a similar place without traveling there.
Thank you. Excellent idea, Mr. Shankar.
Yeah, I was just thinking on similar lines, that the way things have happened in the past 1 year, 2 years, and how Zoom has gone up in numbers and reach. Now people are saying that we don't get that experience. We want to have all our five senses invigorated and having that experience as if. And I remember Bill Gates was asked once, what do you think a dream world would look like? And he said, teleportation. And I think augmented reality comes close to that, that we almost feel in our nerves what it feels like to be in person in a certain situation. So that's where it is going on a humanistic side. On a side of the engineering and technology, it's par excellence, because you don't have to have that expenses incurred, the dangers incurred, and in real time in different parts of the world, people can access, just like Roshan said, that you can do the training on a mega project, oil field project, and you don't need to go there. Or probably if some equipment is being in use and yet they need to train somebody else, augmented reality is the answer without having that much of cost to be incurred. So I second that, obviously, and well, I'm sure that the AI will come in, and you have robo advisors and all those things. So which means the classrooms are going to change. You actually have the professor with a 10,000 data points answering in real time, the Google search going and coming up with what you want. So if you have had a professor experience and explain what the subject is, and you ask back to the robo advisor, that is going to be enhanced augmented reality side of work, I guess. So I leave it at that. And it leaves us a great room to imagine and create that imagination into reality with augmented reality.
Thank you, Mr. Shankar. It's really, really great discussions and lot of information, lot of outcome we are getting from our audience. Dear audience, those who are observing our show, share our content as much as possible, and definitely we have an excellent team. I'm sure our team want to support the global communities. They have strength, they have positive attitudes. So any kind of support you need from World Talent Economy, and especially from our mentors, our board of advisors, please share yours views. We have our email and everything. So definitely our speakers, our mentors, our board of advisor, our brand ambassador, they will support and they will solve your problem. I directly want to go for the concluding remarks. Before that, I just want to share one specific example, like especially for the education industry. Now we have a lot of challenges. Healthcare industry, we have a lot of challenges. So I request of all of the technical experts and those who have technology in their hand, try to solve these things, help the education industries and the health industries with augmented reality, virtual realities, with your technology. Maybe you by this way you can support millions of people. But right now, yes, everybody making business, it's not a bad at all, but I believe that we need more support for academy, more support for healthcare industries. Everywhere, even I'm from Asia Pacific, I saw there are a lot of challenges, and we are part of the global community. We need to work together and we need to help each other. Thank you for today's session, and this is really, really great session. Professor Edward, what's your concluding remarks today? Can you hear me, Professor Edward? Professor David Smith, what's your concluding remarks?
Augmented reality is one of the growing. Let me see.
Can you hear me?
We can, Edward, go ahead.
Yes, Prof.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, I was going in and out. I'll be very brief, just to reiterate, this has been an excellent discussion. And I hope that those of you who are listening, who are fascinated by the possibility of augmented reality, go online, do some more research, look at videos, look at what is possible with it, follow up from what you're listening to in this wonderful discussion.
Thank you, Professor Edward. Thank you. Sorry, Professor David Smith. Yes.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. Augmented reality is one of the growth areas we're going to see through the rest of this decade. But when you combine augmented reality with the Internet of Things, when you combine it with the massive explosion in the amount of data, and you begin to fuse augmented reality with advanced data visualization and with Internet of Things that is enhancing our data generation in the real world environment, you're going to create new possibilities and new arenas for applications that we can only dream about today. So the rest of this decade is going to be explosive growth in this area and will be beneficial to all aspects of our ecosystem, from the consumers, employers, engineers, government, education. They all should be taking advantage of this during this growth period.
Thank you. Professor Donald, what's your concluding remarks today?
Well, I'd like to just mention another use that we haven't. I'll tell you what I'm going to say is a couple of the dangers augmented reality, because we've talked about all the wonderful things that it can do. It also has a few downsides. And I can start this with saying that I saw a pitch by a company that was using drones to map out construction sites to literally a millimeter. They could use with GPSs and other ways of actually making exactly where the drone was. And with the augmented reality, you could walk around and you could see exactly where buildings were going to go. And people mentioned this before, but we haven't mentioned the fact that drones are being used. So the downside of that is they're being used by the military. So you can have weapons that are so precise that they can, stop at stoplights while they're going down to attack you. So that's one downside. And then I want to get back to the whole thing of the feelies and the ability. We're getting closer and closer to the ability to basically live in virtual reality. And we're getting, I've talked before about the danger of AI, which is that right now we train it, and we need the training data to be able to have the deep learning work. And we have a tendency to train it with basically our beliefs. So we wind up having education that's normative instead of being able to be creative and free thinking and things like that. It's trying to train people to be something like a little machine. And I think that we should really keep our thoughts, because diversity is more valuable. That's where creativity comes from. And so one of the things that we need to think about is figuring out how to regulate the dangers of virtual reality as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you, Mr. Dan. Thank you, Professor. Mr. Dan.
Every technology has equal potential for creative uses or destructive uses, and it's no different with mixed reality, which is really the broad category that includes virtual and augmented reality. I think mixed reality is the overarching topic. So I think we need to be cognizant of those threats, and we need to use this technology to counter those threats. We need to become more conversant with the technologies. We need to become, better at data privacy, better at preparedness for catastrophic events, and this can help with all that. But the odds, the stakes in the game are constantly being increased, and we need to up our game accordingly. So, but don't be threatened by that. I mean, I think you can remain optimistic and open, and I think we're on a good track with humanity. So keep calm and carry on. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Shankar. What's your concluding remarks today?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that every scale up, every startup requires scale up, and that's where the economic benefits and the outcomes would actually matter. So there are great ideas, and I would say business at the speed of thought. Now it needs to be reiterated as great outcomes at the speed of imagination. So one of the outcomes definitely would be in the field of education. I'm thinking there are the advanced nations with great, information, content, professors, and I'm imagining a rural village in India with augmented reality. What can it do? It probably will reduce the gap, and there will be an experience of being in the midst of the great teachers. The great advanced nations have all of those abilities you can actually duplicate. I think that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roshan, what's your concluding remarks today?
Yeah, thank you for this amazing discussion today. So my concluding remarks will be augmented reality and virtual reality is something which is going to be there in next couple of years. And it is going to be the mainstream technology. So it is not something like in next couple of years it will be a futuristic technology or something add-on. It will be in the mainstream, right? And the biggest problem which we all as an industry face of a lot of let's say for education sectors or healthcare sector, that is scalability. So in the education sectors, if you wanted to invest some hardware or if you wanted to set up some laboratories, then it will take a lot of capitals, right? And you can't reach to all the students or all the university at the same time. But this help of augmented reality and virtual reality technology, we can cater a lot of audiences at the same time with a huge scalability model over there. So I believe it is going to be in a mainstream media and it's going to be part of our livelihood. Thank you so much for the opportunities.
Thank you, everyone. This is really great sessions, and thank you for joining today's sessions. Augmented reality, virtual reality, definitely important, and we need to adapt with this new technology, new innovations. And definitely, if you have any kind of new concept that we can discuss, we can work, we can manage the project, we are open for that. And we have our excellent team. Definitely our team has a lot of values, resources, and we can work as a team. Thank you, Mr. Shankar. Thank you, Mr. Roshans. Thank you, Mr. Dan, Professor Donalds, and Professor David for joining today's sessions. And I request all of our audience, share our content as much as possible with your government, with your corporations, and with your academia. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.
Thank you.
Bye. See you next time.
Bye.